What does it say about a culture or a generation in our nation who say they are practicing Christians and where faith is, in fact, important to them, and where they say they know both the facts about their Christian faith and believe that they are good at effectively communicating their faith and leading another person to the knowledge of that truth, but still nearly half don't share the good news because they've come to the point where they feel it is wrong to do so. Well, how do you respond, ladies and gentlemen, to this apparent paradox? Because I looked at this information and I said, something needs to be dug out here a little bit and understood more. As in, how can that be? I mean, can you know the truth and have good news and not share it? Well, we know that's possible. Well, is that a result of fear? Is it a result of selfishness? Maybe it's pride. Does it result from maybe not really knowing the good news in the first place, but only knowing perhaps the facts about the good news? Well, to consider this strange and almost contradictory set of research, we're going to talk again with Dillon Burroughs, co-host of Truth for the Next Generation. Dillon, in this research in particular, as identified in yesterday's Christian Post article, almost half of millennials, 47%, agree, and I'm reading now from it, agree that at least somewhat that it is wrong to share one's personal beliefs with someone of a different faith in hopes that they will one day share that same faith, despite the fact that almost 75% say they know the facts and how to do it. In fact, they feel they're good at it. In working with millennials and youth, Dillon, what's likely the most significant cause as you are out there looking and talking with people and looking at this article that would create this apparent contradiction?
Well, from what I've seen, the top concern is this fear of criticism, because the same study notes that nearly two-thirds of millennial Christians believe others will be offended if they share their faith. And this leads to three concepts I want to mention real quickly to your audience. One is that our social media-saturated society has placed more emphasis on likes than on truth. And by that I mean many young people today, their biggest fear is what someone will say about them after they post something on Instagram rather than what the truth is or how to communicate it. But a second concern is this failure to understand the consequences of what happens to those who don't believe in Jesus. And for me, I grew up in a very evangelistic church where there was a focus on talking about Jesus, because if you don't, there are consequences. But it's amazing for me to talk with the average American Christian who does not seem very bothered that their lost loved ones will spend eternity in hell separated from God without Christ. That's a change that has taken place generationally. But then the third concern is the lack of biblical teaching on Christ's coming. And I believe I've seen this very strongly in the past 20 years or so, that there are different views about the end times among believers, of course, but the New Testament places an urgency on sharing the gospel because Jesus is coming back at any moment. But now there's too much of a focus, I believe, on what happens here and now in this world, in this life, in this day and age. And many believers seem to have forgotten that this is the goal, that we share Christ because he's coming back any moment.